G'day, welcome to Australia Ask. This is our part 6 of our discussions with Father Rod Bauer. Today we'll be discussing, are we the lucky country?
It's one thing which you see a lot, Australia is the lucky country. We've been known that for a long, long time. But with globalisation, we saw that shift of moving low-value jobs from Australia overseas. You know, we were lucky, most people in Australia, and the education just lifted and we moved up. But the roles we sent overseas didn't stay at that level. They have become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and we now rely on the absolute poorest people in the world nowadays. Do you envisage not just in Australia, but a world where we can teach the world that to be a worker in this day and age, you don't have to be poor. You can empower them, you can lift them up and still live an amazing lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think Donald Horne called us a lucky country with tongue in cheek in his book, but and I think we can call ourselves a lucky country, but we have to do so with some qualifications because it's lucky for some. Okay. There's over 1 million children in this country that live in poverty, and so it's not lucky for a lot of people and a lot of workers. I mean, we have the working poor now. I mean, nobody these days on a lower wage will ever buy a house.
While we are a very enlightened community, we still have some poor, but there is throughout the world a very big thing on that slavery front.
So there are more slaves in the world today than there was at the so-called end of slavery after the American Civil War. There are certainly in poorer countries, there are slaves who make our clothes and shoes. Sex slavery is still an incredible part of some economies, and we're not free of it here, and we kind of like to think we are, but there are people under sex slavery working here to pay off debt. There are people working in very, very poorly paid jobs that are in fact slavery. But our economic system we export our slavery basically because our economic system relies on cheap workers in poor countries, yeah. And we've got to get to the point where we simply refuse to buy anything where the provenance isn't clear that it's slavery free. Yeah. And there's enormous pressure on some of the chain stores and that to be able to certify that it's slavery free, and I think we need to be able to educate our people much more in that area. But there's some great people doing some extraordinary work in that area, so I'm confident that we'll get.
Thank you for listening today. That was part 6 of our discussion with Father Rod Bauer. Please hit like and subscribe. Tune in for our next episode, which will be, what does the future look like?